Thank you. Thank you. Great to be here. Thank you so much. Sure. Well, before just one technical thing, I am only hearing you through the Instagram feed. I'm not hearing you through my headphones. So I don't know if that's something that we can.
Okay,
Yeah, now I hear you great.
cool.
How are you? Thank you so much for having me here, Kabir.
Yeah.
It's great to see you. Wish it were closer in person, but it feels close.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I am here in Brooklyn, and I actually live in Manhattan. I live in Chelsea, but our place was we had some issues with our place, so we had to quickly find a new place to hunker down in. Me and my girlfriend Laura are here, and luckily Olivier. Many of you might know the great club in Brooklyn, Barbez, which has been around for many years. I've actually played there every Wednesday for 11 years now, and the owner of Barbez, Olivier, he went away with his wife to her family, so he let us be here in his home. So we're in his beautiful home here, which is very comfortable and has a backyard and is a little bit more suited to hunkering down and staying indoors than our place in Chelsea. So
I hear you. Have you had to cancel many gigs? What was your life looking like before the crisis set in?
yeah, actually, today I was supposed to be flying from Paris to Prague. I had a month-long tour scheduled in Europe. I was supposed to leave on the 28th, and yeah, play in France and Czech Republic, and of course all that got canceled, and then also shows here in the U.S. I have a monthly duo series that I do at National Sawdust, and that got canceled. They just announced that they canceled all the way through August at National Sawdust. Um, and I have some shows in June that haven't been canceled yet. Like I'm playing at the Strathmore June 12th with my Reimagining Benny Goodman project with Matt Wilson and Steve Nelson. But so far, that's still on the books. So everything April, May has been canceled for sure.
Yeah, I hear you. And you've also had to I want to talk about it later. You've also had to cancel probably your Timbalulu courses, right, as well. And
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. We'll talk about that too. But yeah, Timbalulu is a program I have for kids, and we have our project in a lot of different schools around town and classes that parents form. We just started with a Head Start program in Bed-Stuy that I was very excited about, and we started in January, and then of course we had to stop all that program. So now we're doing that online as well through Zoom classes and through daily live feeds on the Timbalulu Facebook and Instagram pages.
cool. So yeah, I want to get into all that, but maybe we can start um, with some music. What would you like to begin your performance with tonight?
I think I'll improvise something.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Oran at his best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll play something for the times we are in right now, for this moment right now. Wow.
Dude, I love you. Love you here in Atlanta.
Wow. The crowds.
All right, all right. They stop on command. It's amazing. I have them trained perfectly.
Wow. What an audience. What an audience.
um, hey, so that was beautiful,
Thank you.
mellow, melancholy.
Hmm.
Um, seems like it's a the blues everywhere, and you're giving voice to that with your
Yeah,
music.
that is.
You know, the first time I heard about you was your Benny Goodman project.
Mm,
I was looking at sort of it was probably several years ago now, but I was working on putting out projects through Motemo as well, the label that put out that project, and I was going through the catalog and I listened to it. I was like, "Who is this guy?"
mm.
And I was just pleasantly surprised with your musicality. And tell me about putting that project together. Your Benny Goodman, What's New Reimagined Benny Goodman. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
What was that project like? Why did you want to honor Benny Goodman in the way that you did?
Well, for me, growing up, actually, as a child, Louis Armstrong was the first musician that really brought me into music when I was 9 years old. Started listening to Louis and fell in love with that, and and then later I got to Benny Goodman as well. And for me, when I hear the band that Benny Goodman had in the '30s with Lionel Hampton, Teddy Wilson, Gene Krupa, um, it's that quartet that he had. In a way, he's taking that music of Benny Goodman, he's taking that inspiration from Louis Armstrong, and the way I hear it, he is like the the trumpet playing the lead in there, and the the vibes are like a clarinet in a traditional New Orleans ensemble, so it kind of flips the whole thing around. For me as a kid, I was always listening to Louis Armstrong and the lyricism that he had, and that that ensemble with Lionel Hampton, Teddy Wilson, Gene Krupa really captured that sense of lyricism that drew me as a child. So I wanted to revisit that, but reimagine it in a very modern way, because that instrumentation, clarinet, vibes, piano, and drums, it hasn't been explored since since then. And there's so many sound possibilities with that instrumentation, um, and it also is a very uh, you know trailblazing and fresh group at the time, both musically and also socially. It was the first racially integrated popular music band, really, that broke the color barrier years, I believe 12 years or so before Jackie Robinson did the same in baseball. But it really, started a lot of work that is continuing today in terms of America
Yeah,
coming to terms
that's a good point.
with its
How
past.
there's a point I like to make as well. How like the jazz band was integrated long before the civil rights movement came into
Hmm.
place and the rest of civil society. So in that way, music can kind of be a reflection or a what the world ought to be,
Yeah,
or can be, or should be.
yeah,
So maybe like your music today, so something like it brings us together. We want to keep having people play, and despite the distance between us. Um, so you're playing a role that he played, trying to get us back to a world that we need to be in.
yeah. It's all
Um,
of our responsibility. We all have to play that role in whatever way we can in our lives.
Totally. Tell me about the song selection. How did you go about? There's a lot of repertoire you could choose. How did you go about sort of making the cut from the vast repertoire that is the? I almost want to call it like the pantheon or the canon of
Hmm.
Benny Goodman.
Yeah. Well, you know, I went to the tunes that drew me in from Benny Goodman's repertoire, and the ones that I could see where I could add my own voice to create kind of a different, uh, different version of them, different, uh, a totally different take on them. So, like we took Sing Sing Sing, and took it apart completely, all those different lines that are on top of each other, and placed this place the line that comes in the middle as the intro line, and basically I let every musician bring in any line that they wanted freely over each other, and let them kind of shift. So so that one became a totally different feel from how we know Sing Sing Sing, for example, or Dinah. Took that and put it into an African 6/8 rhythm that felt very broken. That then we could shift into a swing thing. So it kind of lives in this world between the African 6/8 feel and swing, um, and kind of that's the thing about these musicians that I work with. There, Matt Wilson and Steve Nelson and Sullivan Fortner, all those guys can really go deep into the 30s, stride style, and they can also go into what will still sound fresh in 2030.
Do you
So,
always tour those guys? That's like your go-to lineup.
yep, yep. Although I've had, of course, lots of subs on it. When Sullivan can't do it, sometimes Christian Sands has done it. Fabian Almazan has done it.
You
Adam
have a
Greenbaum.
pretty stock bench, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a deep bench.
Yeah.
If Christian Sands is batting second, I mean that's a pretty good lineup, you know. Um, so wow. Okay. So and how was the album received? Were you happy with the response and the sort of the critical response? Did you get all good reviews?
Uh, there were mostly good reviews. There was one really bad review that I really enjoyed reading.
What is the worst review that you've gotten? What is something that someone said about you that
Well, this was a two-star review in a British magazine, and it said, "It's hard to listen to this album because of the sound of Benny Goodman rolling over in his grave." That's how the review started,
yeah.
and
Wow.
I think the reviewer didn't really get what we were trying to do. I think he was listening to it as, okay, they're trying to play like Benny Goodman,
Hmm.
which of course I would we failed at that, as I think most people, if they really try to play like Benny Goodman, might come close, but in essence they're failing at being themselves. So I think he was judging it with a with what he was expecting,
Sure.
and I think part of the whole idea of the project was really bringing something different, because I love playing in that style, and sometimes I get to play gigs that are really in the 30s style, and I love that. But what we were trying to do with this album was really something different, and I loved reading that.
Just frame it. Put it up on the wall behind. Get some empty
Yep,
space behind you. Put it on the brick
yep,
wall behind you,
exactly.
and you can do your push-ups, being motivated.
Yeah.
Do your scales. Exactly. Exactly. By the way, if you're watching at home, feel free to ask Oran a question. There's no topic off limits. You can ask him about anything, and I'll try to get him to answer.
Uh-huh.
So, yes, we're making a drinking game. For every question that you don't answer, we'll have to do a curl up. All right. So, what will you like to play for us next?
um. Hmm. Well, you know what? How about some gratitude?
I like that.
Yeah, this is a
I'm
tune.
thankful for you.
Yeah, and I'm thankful for you,
Uh-oh,
and
too much love.
uh-oh. But I am feeling very thankful these days, and I think we all need to be thankful for, uh, especially for the medical professionals who are working super hard. My girlfriend is a researcher at Mount Sinai, and she's very close with that community, and it's yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
But we have a lot to be grateful for, even in the midst of all that's going on. So this is a tune that's on an album of mine called uh, the album What is that? I'm Gathering Light. That's right.
Yeah, you released Gathering Light before Benny Goodman. I thought I would
Exactly.
just
Exactly.
wanted to remind you.
Yep. That's why I forgot the name of it. So this is a tune on Gathering Light called Gratitude.
There it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was awesome.
Thank you.
I like the groove.
Uh huh.
I
There
like
they
the
go
groove.
again. The
Yeah,
crowd.
I bring them with me everywhere,
Ah.
especially on.
Nice.
I play it mostly these days on takeoffs and landings.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
With a
like to like
Bluetooth
to
speaker, so the whole.
in solidarity with the pilots out there
Hmm.
for flying empty planes. No, that was great. I love the groove on it. I love the timbre you get on your bass clarinet. We have a question. What kind of bass clarinet do you have?
Oh, this is that's a good question. This is a Selmer. It's an old Selmer. Yeah, it's a very old Selmer. All my instruments are Selmers now. This is I don't even know if there's a name for this model, um, but it's an old Selmer, probably from the 50s.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Question on Instagram saying, when did you know you wanted to become a clarinetist?
that's a good question. Well, I was actually a saxophonist before. I started playing saxophone when I was 9, and I knew I wanted to be clarinetist when I heard the Mozart Clarinet Concerto, and I said, "Wow, the oboe is really beautiful." And then I was told that it was a clarinet, so I was like, "Oh, clarinet, okay, okay." And yeah, I got really into the clarinet when I was in high school, and I just decided to I did my undergrad on classical clarinet, and to get really deep into that. So it was a little bit because I was getting into the world of classical music and new music. When I was in high school, I used to go to Israel every summer and participate in these summer workshops. They were I was kind of the only jazz guy in those, and was starting to listen to all this different music and 20th century music, and then I decided that maybe the clarinet would be interesting to
Yeah,
explore. But it's interesting because I was listening to, like I said before, I was listening to all this Louis Armstrong since I was 9, but I didn't really gravitate toward the clarinet, because
yeah,
it was Louis' way of playing, so lyrically, that really drew me in.
totally. Someone who's tuning in right now is Salvador. He was a clarinetist featured on the John Diversa Dreamers project I produced.
Oh,
He's
cool.
studying for I think in a degree, his master's degree. What advice do you have for someone who's in school, who's graduating from college or from a master's degree, playing the clarinet, and they're about to embark upon their career? What advice would you have them on how to make a career playing the same instrument that you do?
Hmm. Well, I think my advice for any instrument, first of all, is the thing that's the hardest at this very moment is to get a gig, to gig as much as possible, playing for people, because music is great in the practice room and everything, but really it's about connection, and that doesn't mean you have to like impress everyone and go for house. It means if you're expressing yourself honestly, you feel that connection with the audience. And I think if you're able to make your music connect with the people you're playing with, then that's really one of the best ways to improve. So really, for me, anytime I can play, for an audience, I feel like I grow. And playing for a dancing audience is great. If you can get people to dance, that's really an important thing. Um, so yeah, I think for me that would be the first thing is try to find as many opportunities to play, and it doesn't matter where it is. I've had really tiny gigs that paid like close to nothing that have led to amazing opportunities. So you know, it really being open to every opportunity to play with new people and put yourself in uncomfortable situations where you don't feel safe and you don't know what's going to happen, because that not knowing what's going to happen is the best thing.
Totally. What was your first gig that like, or the gig that you got that you sort of knew you had arrived? Was it like a big jazz club or something? You're like, oh, here I am.
Well, I'm still waiting to arrive.
Yeah,
I hope
yeah,
I never
let us know
arrive.
when. No, you have, man. I mean, I think in the eyes of probably students, like you're the guy people look up to, and you're out there making a name for yourself and establish and playing all over the world. Um, so like, was it the big record deal? Was it a record deal that you got? Was it playing it, having a gig at the Blue Note? What was it for you?
I mean, well, definitely, my first record was a big boost to, took the career from doing local gigs into doing international gigs. That was on Motema, my record with a band I had with West African musicians, called Kelenya. So that definitely was a big boost. And then I had a booking agent, a European booking agent from that, and a U.S. booking agent, and I started to play all the places that I'd always wanted to play. There was one summer I did North Sea and Montreal Jazz Fest and Paris Jazz Fest and a bunch of these festivals that I'd always dreamed of doing. And so you know, that was definitely a big moment. I think there are when you look at a career, there's several moments, and each one of them has its own challenges career wise. You know, getting your first gigs right out of college or even before college. I mean, I was lucky. The first gigs that I had were when I was in high school. The choir director was a gospel singer, and he had me come to his church and play with the gospel choir, and we do little gigs around town. Um, so I was lucky that, but every step of your career has different challenges, and starting off the career, the first album is a challenge. That second album is sometimes a bigger challenge because the first album you worked on for like years and you were thinking about what it's going to sound like. Then it's like, okay, what am I going to do next?
Yeah,
And then there's that, how do you go from doing certain level of gigs into being, that I think each that mid career thing. Every level of the career has its own unique challenges, I think.
Yeah, totally. By the way, speaking of great saxophonist Brian Gorell, I think out in Oklahoma is tuning in. See, all the reed players around the country, man, are tuning in
Nice.
to your broadcast.
Yeah.
Um, Tell me, before you play the next song, um, you gave me some advice and talked about where you've been in your career. Is there a gig or a place that has eluded you that you want to play at that would be like, you know what, I want to play at this venue or this festival?
I think the Vanguard. Yeah, the Village Vanguard, just because there's so much history there
Hmm.
and so much. Uh, I feel like it's a little bit of a sacred room in a way, you know.
For
Like
sure.
just being in there. I don't know. Whenever I hear a concert there, it feels like you're part of the history, even as an
Sure.
audience, you know.
The
So
audience, yeah. Some of those great Vanguard records, like the audience is as much a part of the performance,
yeah.
like those, like Bill Evans Sunday, the Village Vanguard. It was like just a day that they play, and then you hear like the people chattering and the clattering of silverware, and then that album goes down in history. It's like, but it's just that whole live element, and of course, going there is it's such an amazing experience.
Mm-hmm.
You're right; it is kind of a religious, sacred place to play. You
Yeah.
should definitely play. We need to get you there somehow.
Yeah.
So, what would you like to play for us next?
Um, well, you know what? You made me think about when you asked what the first gig. I thought you were going towards what my first gig is, but it is actually when I felt like I arrived. I think I was around 11 years old. I went down to New Orleans, and I had my soprano sax with me, and this wonderful human being who I got to know a lot better later. His name was Tuba Fats, Anthony Layson. He was outside playing in Jackson Square. He's in a way kind of the father of the street musicians there, the funeral bands. He had his own funeral band and was one of the founders of the Rebirth Brass Band. He was like, "Hey, come over here, come," and played with me. I mean, I'm sure I was a kid, but he was super welcoming, and then he said, "Oh, come tonight. We're gonna play at this club called Little People." So I went there, and that was the first time I was at a jazz club. It was like that was my heart was open. So since that whole music is a big part of my childhood and who I am, and also in light of some sad news that we got right before going on the air, um, you were telling me that the great Ellis Marsalis has just passed away,
Yeah,
and that's something that's
that's
really.
Wynton,
Mm-hmm.
who's a great sort of friend and mentor, and we love Wynton Marsalis, and his father is an icon, and Wynton has been a institution for jazz and jazz culture around the world. And his father, as we found out just before going on to air,
Mm-hmm.
is Ellis Marsalis. He just passed away. Um, so yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, and Wynton's brother Jason also is a good friend of mine and plays on Wake Up Clarinet on one of my albums and was my neighbor when he was in Brooklyn after Katrina, and definitely I'm going to be reaching out to him and sending him some love. Alice Marsalis is one of the people who made so many musicians inspired.
Yeah, great patriarch. Maybe we can dedicate the next number to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is one of the first tunes that I heard down in New Orleans that stuck with me since then, and a tune that Louis Armstrong used to play on every gig of his. This is When It's Sleepy Time Down South.
Wow, man, thank you so much for sharing that. What a
Yeah,
fitting and a heavy piece that was, or it's kind of a sad moment um, for the Jazz family.
it is. It is. And Wallace Roney yesterday. It's really is a moment where all of the elders who brought this music to us and who refined this music and who led the way. It's something
Hmm.
that we need to really take care of each other in this moment and be there for each other as much as we can and
Yeah, well said. Important Wallace Roney, Mike Longo. I fear
hmm
this is I
yep
fear it's more bad news to come. So we just kind of have to be there for each other and also have to be there for the children. And I know you are
yeah
and you have
hmm
been. Tell me, tell us a little bit more about Timbalulu, why you started it, and why you're so passionate about music education.
yeah absolutely. So Timbalulu is a program I have for children where the whole concept is that all the instruments come alive and speak through their music. And this is how I conceive of music when I play music. It's not, okay, we need to play a B flat because that's going to be the sharp four on it's let's talk to each other, let's have a conversation. And this is how I want children to conceive of music since the age of, since they're tiny, since age of 2. So I came up with this whole method where all the instruments come to life and speak through their music, and the children learn how to play music by making their instrument talk. So it's very related to how they learn languages at that age, which is such a fluent, you know, intuitive way. They don't learn the rules of grammar like when we teach an older student how to speak a foreign language. We teach the past tense and the present tense and the past participle of the third sharp four of the whatever, all these rules, and then after years of study, you go to the foreign country and you try to speak and you're thinking, oh, okay, no, I need the future tense now. Okay, this is, but a child doesn't think that way. They internalize all the rules because they do speak with perfect grammar. So somewhere deep inside them, they understand what past tense is, what future tense is. It's not like they don't know it. They know it deeper than we can know it. So I want them to be able to learn music in that same intuitive way. And I see musicians who do have that ability, who learned music at that age in such an intuitive way, and they're able to speak music fluently, and that's an inspiration to me, and that's how I'd like the next generation of children to grow up. So I can't hear you, Kabir.
Sorry, the new microphone I'm
Yep.
learning. Um, yeah, so tell me, how do the lessons go? Though, so do you have is it group instruction, and where are the
Yep.
lessons taught?
Yep. So there's a few components to Timbalulu. First of all, there's music classes that we have, and those are throughout the city. There's teaching artists that have trained, and those are group classes. And so I've trained teaching artists here in New York, and we just are starting to take it outside of New York. We got a grant through the Mladi Ladi Jazz Fest to train teachers in Czech Republic. So taking professional musicians there and training them to go into the public schools and teach using the Timbalulu method. And now we want to take it to others, schools outside New York as well. So that's the classes, and then so those happen in New York in schools that we partner with. Like I was saying, we just partnered with a Head Start program in Bed-Stuy that's been a great new partnership, and also in homes, people form group classes, and then the other ways that Timbalulu happens is also through concerts. So we've done full band concerts throughout the world, in Japan, China, Turkey, all throughout Europe, and then also CDs and albums as well, and videos online. So
Talk about your new album that just came out last year.
yeah, so this is an album that's part of the Timbalulu project that you were involved with as well. That I'm grateful, very grateful for that. Um, and it's called Finding Friends Far From Home, and so I recorded it as I was touring. I did recorded it in yeah, there it is exactly, um, and I recorded it in Czech Republic, Turkey, China, and Zimbabwe as I was touring, working with traditional musicians in those countries. So the star of the Timbalulu shows and stuff is my friend Clara, who is right here. Her last name is Net. This is Clara, Clarinet.
Hey, Clara.
Hey. And her mom is Big Mama Tuba. So the kids have gotten to know her family, but now she's going beyond her family and meeting the mbira. So this is the mbira right here. This mbira was made for me by my friend Musakiwa in Zimbabwe. He there's actually a music video online of this song Kutapira that I learned in his backyard when I woke up before any of the adults were awake. The kids taught me this song, and I gave them my cell phone, so they're taking selfies and making fun of me trying to learn this song. And so in Zimbabwe, Clara meets the Mbira. She goes to China and meets the Arhu and the Gojong, the balalaika in Russia, the shamisen, all these different instruments in different countries, and they talk with each other. It's all about the dialogue between instruments, which of course mirrors the dialogue between people that we should all be having.
Totally. Do you have any musical examples of what you would, let's say I was entering your Timbalulu course, how would you use your music to demonstrate a lesson?
Sure. Well, so for example, my friend Clara, she comes to the concert in her bed. Do I have her bed here? Her bed is her case. So she comes to the concert in her bed. And this we also do in the concerts, live concerts as well. The kids don't know that I say, I have a friend named Clara. She was so excited to come here. She was running all around the park. She said, "I'm gonna go play with all the kids," and I said, "You better calm down because you're gonna get tired." And then she gets tired and she goes to sleep. And I ask her I wake her up and I tell her we're going to the class or the concert. She said, "I want to go, but I want to stay in my bed. I want to go to the concert, but I want to stay in my bed." And I said, "Can you please take me to the concert in my bed?" And so then, we wake her up out of her bed. We put her mouthpiece on. Her mouth falls off, so we have to put her neck on. And finally, when we have her whole body, she says, "Mama, I want my mama." You hear that?
Yeah.
And all the kids say, "Yeah." And then she says, "Mama, mama, mama." Wait. Hold on, Claire. Say it slowly. You want to drink a what? So all the kids say, "I want a drinko." And they say, "Water." They can hear the clarinet talking.
Yeah. Wow.
And she says,
Powerful, man.
Yeah.
I wish I had learned music like that.
Yeah.
I would have been on that couch playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I mean, it's it seems different than like the Suzuki method, right? Of course, that like which I was sort of drilled into play, and it was like it was fun, but not that fun. And it seems like the method you've created is like a real province for us for more educators to go down. Have you thought about like franchising this thing or doing online education? And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the next step that we're looking at is how to get it, beyond just the teachers that I train who work for Timbalulu to get it to, this is the first step with the Czech Republic, how we got this grant to train teachers there. There was someone in China who was looking at licensing it for all his early childhood centers, but of course that got put on hold. But yeah, we're definitely looking at how we can get this method out there and have other educators use this approach.
cool. How about one last one for us?
Sure. You know what? Let's do let's do a little fun one. This is a tune that Clara likes to play, and let's ask Clara what she wants to do. Actually, why are we picking the tunes? She's the one playing, right?
Yeah.
What do you want to do, Clara? All you really want to do is what? All I really want to do is dance? Uh-huh. Well, how do you want to dance, Clara? Dance really silly. Dance willy-nilly. Dance like Uncle Billy. Her Uncle Billy does dance pretty silly. So this is all I really want to do is dance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ah, there they are. There they are. There they are. I was a little worried there.
No, they went out to get something to eat, and then they
Oh,
came
okay,
back.
yeah.
Came back. They're very big fans of yours.
Yeah.
There's for those of you asking, there is there that's the Oran Etkin fan club,
Hmm.
and it's full, as you can tell.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
Is there a,
Yes.
is there a like a go-to, like the songs that you selected for the album? I remember putting it together and you sequencing it. Was there like a song that really stood out now that it's been out? Is there some track that everyone's like, hey, or the kids really resonate with?
On the Finding Friends Far From Home album?
Yeah.
Um, well, Kutapira, the song with the Mbira, with Musakiwa from Zimbabwe,
Mm-hmm.
that one really resonated well, I think. And also the other one, Chai Shukaria.
Chai Shukaria.
That
That's
seems to
the
be
one. I love
a
that
big
one.
hit. Yeah, that's a project with Roma musicians.
Say real fast. Chai
Let's just
Shukaria.
Chai Shukaria, Chai Shukaria, Chai Shukaria. Yeah, exactly. So
I like the Chinese. The who played the what was the instrument?
yeah, Ming Xiaofen.
Ming Xiaofeng.
Yeah, Ming Xiaofen sings on there, and yeah, and we have Gojong
For sure.
and Arhu that I recorded.
Arhu, that's the one.
Yeah, that I recorded those in China, and yeah, that came out really beautifully. And you know what? We used the Gojong track, and then put a Japanese shamisen player,
Hmm.
so for the Japanese song for Sakura, and that is beautiful also because it's got the Chinese and Japanese collaboration there. One example of music going beyond borders that, beyond political borders. So
Hey, seems like exactly what we need right now, and
yeah,
exactly the medicine we need. And you talking about when you were in China, it just that wasn't so long ago, and it seems like it was ancient history considering what we're going through right
yeah,
now.
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
hey man, thanks for joining. I really appreciate it. God bless. I wish you all the best for getting through this and getting back to normalcy whenever that happens.
Yeah, exactly. And let's take this opportunity to think about what we want that normalcy to look like, that new normalcy.
Totally.
Make
Well
it.
said, my friend.
Yeah.
So a couple things. First of all, thanks for coming on the broadcaster on.
Thank you.
Yeah, a quick shout out to the folks at the Sandra and Camilo, the great folks. They're the sound team, engineering team. If you need help with them or with any kind of audio services, even you, Ron, hit them up.
Yeah.
Website, watch this website right there. Boom. See that magic? No hands. And soundworksrecording.com. Check them out. Top class professionals. And lastly, just want to end again with the sad news we got this evening with Ellis Marcellus. This show episode music dedicated to him. Legend. Wynton, his son, was a really the first person that got me into jazz when I was in high school, and got to know Ellis and saw him play live in New Orleans. So real big loss for our jazz music American community tonight, and wish him and his family all the best and our deepest condolences.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So with that, I wish everyone good night. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern. We have a rock and roll act tomorrow.
Nice.
So different aesthetic, but keeping the music going. And every night, 10 p.m. Eastern, please join us. Have a good night. God bless and stay healthy.